Growing up in the time that I did was truly a blessing in disguise. I had a treasure trove of great games built by passionate developers who, in hindsight, were actually so far ahead of their time. We've talked about them before on this channel, from Ghost Recon to Rainbow Six, Brothers in Arms to Splinter Cell, and War to Hawks. If you're a fan of video games and happen to be alive back in the early 2000s, you were one of the lucky ones. This video is centered around an article that was released from Video Game Chronicle, in which the headline reads, "Ubisoft has canceled 3 unannounced games and delayed Skull and Bones again." Now, this headline isn't really that shocking. Truth be told, it would be in Ubisoft's best interests to just cancel this ill-fated pirate game, but they can't due to certain agreements with the Singapore government, meaning Ubisoft is on the hook for almost $100 million in development of a game that most likely will fail to meet sales targets at launch. Now, this isn't hate for Ubisoft. This is a prediction based on trends that we have seen in the space, and I just want to preface this whole thing by saying I'm somebody who absolutely adored Ubisoft in the early 2000s. They created some of my favorite franchises of all time, created games that I was able to share time with my dad playing. When I was working at McDonald's as a little teenager, all summer long I saved up for my first PC, a Pentium 2 Duo processor that I used to play Ghost Recon missions with my dad on LAN while he was in the other room. A lot of casual Big Fry fans might think that I hate Ubisoft, but it's actually so far from the truth. I hate what they've become. And this latest news sums up every single video that I've been making about them for the past 6 years on this channel. The tagline of this article is where I'd like to start. It reads, "The company says it's facing major challenges as the industry continues to shift towards mega brands." This saying alone is so out of touch. Yes, the vast majority of players are moving towards the Call of Duties, the Fortnites, the Apex Legends. This much is true. But there's a reason for that I don't think Ubisoft as a company can actually admit to themselves. Ubisoft said it's spent the last 4 years attempting to adapt its biggest brands. This includes Assassin's Creed, Far Cry, Ghost Recon, Rainbow Six, and The Division. They spent the last 4 years attempting to adapt their biggest brands to converging trends. However, the games from this investment phase have either yet to be released, while the recent launches have not performed as well as expected. So, like I've been saying for years, Ubisoft is chasing trends and changing their initial target demographics to try to gather as many players as possible, and as this article shows, it isn't working out that well. Major backlash towards games like Ghost Recon Frontlines, which was a battle royale set in the Ghost Recon universe, forced that game to be shuttered. It literally no longer exists, and it never even released. The commercial failure of Rainbow Six Extraction, which dropped the ball from its initial reveal all the way until launch, it had zero impact in the industry. It was dust in the wind. X-Defiant, from what I'm hearing, is actually getting better, and honestly, since they removed the Tom Clancy label, I've heard better and better things. This is because they actually listened to real feedback and made the changes. They removed the Tom Clancy branding, which is what made people angry in the first place. Hyperscape, dead. Rainbow Six Siege is a shell of its former self, changing the game to, well, trend chase. But when we start to dive into quotes said by the Ubisoft CEO Yves Guillemot, you start to realize just how out of touch this company has become. He states that they're facing contrasted market dynamics as the industry continues to shift towards mega brands and everlasting live games in the context of worsening economic conditions affecting consumer spending. So, let's take Call of Duty for example. It is one of the largest games on the planet, huge game. The reason why Modern Warfare 2 was a smash hit is because the game showed clearly that they want to deliver on the experience that players actually want. Modern Warfare 2019 and Modern Warfare 2 are hitting the tone and the vibe of when Call of Duty as a franchise was at its peak. It spent a lot of years chasing the jetpack, the wall running trends, and while the games were still successful because it's a household name, Call of Duty will always sell regardless, they've never ever seen this level of success that Modern Warfare 2 just brought to them a few months ago. Take Battlefield, for example. When 2042 started ramping up their marketing, the trailers sold everybody on the glory days of old. The franchise was finally returning to its roots. Near-future weaponry, jets, Rondazooks. They played off of nostalgia, which in any other industry is a tough gamble. But the reason why it works so well in the gaming industry is because the majority of gaming fans on the internet know that games were just significantly better 10 years ago when passion was still on the table. The problem I've always had with Ubisoft is they have some of the greatest IPs in existence, from Ghost Recon to Rainbow Six. I mean, everything under the Tom Clancy banner, even games like Hawks and End War. They have Prince of Persia, Brothers in Arms, Splinter Cell. They have an absolute goldmine under them, yet they continue to alienate fans of those franchises while chasing trends in the market. But they're in a position where they can be a trendsetter, not a chaser. Yet they refuse to acknowledge this while they focus on pushing out games like Hyperscape and Frontline. On top of this, we now have Yves Guillemot telling staff that the onus is now on them to reverse the company's fortune after it provided a dire financial update on Wednesday of this week. Truth is, every problem Ubisoft has comes from the top. Having to constantly please shareholders wouldn't be so hard if you just stayed true to yourselves and not make every franchise you have a cookie cutter shell of their former selves. Every game is the same mechanics and the same formula with a different set of paint, and the public knows it. That Ubisoft logo that opened some of the greatest games of all time doesn't mean anything anymore, and that is directly due to the management of this company. This video doesn't need to go into its other ventures that Ubisoft has boneheadedly chased, like the crypto chase in courts or the hamstringing of the latest Just Dance 2023, which is honestly Ubisoft's bread and butter, and yet in this latest iteration, they still managed to screw that up as well. If you want your words to ring true, Yves, take a pay cut. If Ubisoft's position is that they're financially in a dire situation, and clearly it's due to the lack of innovation and trend-chasing commands given from upper management, maybe for once, you take the onus on the situation and drop your pay. We know that won't happen, much like we know that Ubisoft will stay so formulaic in their development that nothing will change until they eventually find themselves in another hostile takeover situation. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is my opinion on the current state of Ubisoft. It's a sad reality, and all it takes to steer this ill-fated ship around. No, I'm not talking about Skull and Bones. I'm talking about the company that's trying so desperately to not become Skull and Bones. All it takes is for them to look inward and start investing in what made them popular in the first place. Stop chasing trends and start setting them, like you did when we were coming up. My name is Big Fry. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.